All right, great. Hello, world. Podler team back at it again, doing more of the research for the Mojo phenomenon, the human quality phenomenon. Right now, I'm doing some catch-up work with Mitchell. I am Naiji Coach. I'm joined by Naiji Mitchell. We've got Jaili in the background here. But the focus here will be catching up Mitchell on some earlier voicing stuff from the formal incantation. I believe we're now about halfway into the Podler principles. So, Mitchell, take it away when you're ready.
All right, so yeah, I'll just read this beat again. Humans are energetic beings that evolved to care where they are now, and they are still evolving. This is a non-static state, thus the evolutionary trajectory of humans includes heroic pre-human and post-human forms. At all stages, there will be nature, nurture, and free will, so there will always be a need to understand our nature, nurture our nature, and exert our free will to use our nature for its most heroic purposes. This unifies our heroic trajectory throughout our entire evolved history and whatever we evolve into in the future. From this point of view, humans can be seen as energetic processes, animals, biocomputers, works of art, self-aware heroes, and spiritual beings, all with no paradoxes. Okay, so humans are energetic beings, and we evolved to get where we are, and we're still evolving. So we're in this non-static state, and this gives us a kind of evolutionary trajectory of pre-human, post-human, recurrent human forms. And at each of these stages, there is going to be nature, nurture, and free will. And so, because of those things, we're always going to need to understand our nature, nurture our nature, and exert our free will to use our nature as best we can for best heroic purposes. So humans can be seen in this way, like a variety of ways that we can be seen as energetic processes, animals, biocomputers, self-aware heroes, and spiritual beings, and works of art. And all of these different ways coincide with no paradoxes.
Good. And just throwing in there also that there's an arc then between everything we came from before, where we are now, and what will be in the future. It's one continuous arc.
Yeah.
All right, no worries there. All right, next up is Podler Potential Communities. You know?
Yeah, people have the right to have their home set up to be the most conducive to their peak pathways. Humans have the right to live in intentional communities, even if it is only two people, based on the best practices for their peak pathways. Toddler intentional communities are places where the toddler lifestyle is lived in the most immersive and pervasive way possible. Humans are designed to travel and communicate in certain ways that are most conducive to them. The Toddler International Community Network, PICN, is a platform for facilitating this human need for moving and sharing. Hang on, sorry, 1 second. Okay. So people have the right to have their homes set up in the most conducive way possible for their pathways. And they also have the right to live in intentional communities, even if it's only two people, where they can exercise the best practices for their peak pathway. So toddler intentional community these are places where the toddler lifestyle in these ways we describe are lived in the most immersive way possible. So humans are also designed to be able to move around and freely share their peak pathway productions, I suppose, in the ways that are most conducive to them as well. And so for this need, we have the Toddler Intentional Community Network that facilitates the human need to move around and share what they're doing.
All right, next up is the principle of mojo journalism.
Humans are designed to communicate and express themselves with all of their being and should be encouraged and empowered to do so. Mojo journalism is the tribal discipline dedicated to keeping humans as well informed as possible about all aspects of natural law and how it pertains to the human condition and the meaning of existence. All the facets of traditional journalism are included in motojournalism, plus all the discoveries made by Podler and the groundbreaking insights they provide. Motojournalism includes the principles of freedom of expression and freedom of information. All this together makes motojournalism is the journalism.
There.
Yeah. You see what I see?
All this together makes motojournalism the journalism of the future.
Yeah. No, it's. Okay. So humans were designed to communicate and express themselves with all aspects of their being and should be encouraged and empowered to do so. So motojournalism is a tribal discipline that we have, which is meant to keep humans informed about all aspects of natural law as they pertain to the human condition and the meaning of existence. And it includes all of standard traditional journalism, in addition to the new insights that Podler brings to the table that weren't able to be accounted for before, thus making it more complete. Very important to motojournalism are freedom of expression and freedom of information. So, because it includes this better best practices than traditional journalism, it is going to be journalism.
Good. All right, next up is the principle of gang and universe.
All existence can be thought of as binary energy dichotomies, infinitely complex ones and zeros. To understand anything, you must start with something, as something comes before nothing, and thus we live in a Yang universe. Something existed before the Big Bang, and something will exist after this universe ends. This constant unfolding of reality gives us infinite mystery to explore, with new discoveries always awaiting us. Father practitioners believe in taking a proactive approach to understanding and improving life, which we see as our responsibility in return for the apex gifts that natural law has given to our species. Okay, so all of existence can be thought of as binary energy dichotomies, like an infinite cascade of ones and zeros. So to understand anything, you have to start with something. Something becomes or nothing, and thus we live in a Yang, as opposed to some kind of behavior that's actually in. So something existed before the Big Bang, and there will be something after the Big Bang. So that there's going to be infinite mystery for us to explore. With thus new discoveries always awaiting us. Proactively see. We take a proactive approach to understanding and improving life, and we see this. That's because we see the responsibility because of the gifts that nature, the apex gifts that nature gave us as humans.
All right. We got two more to go in this area. Next up is degrees of Podler practice.
All right. There are degrees to applying and integrating Podler principles into one's life, and there is, in general, a fairly consistent pattern as to how people go about doing so. There is not a strict codifying of the degrees of Podler practice, but there are some common gradations. The first degree, which is the most forensic and verifiable, focuses on just the mojo phenomenon. Its existence, the fact that it can be empirically observed, and that it clearly shows humans have innate natures based on mathematical relationships. The second degree involves areas that are more tacit but still easy for people to see the connection to the mojo phenomenon at first, such as peak pathways, social alchemy, mojo journalism, and so on. The third degree for most people are the areas of spirituality, which is very much intrinsically linked to the mojo phenomenon, but it takes more time and training to be able to see these connections. These first 3 degrees can be done while practicing any spiritual belief system that updates itself to account for all the game-changing discoveries the toddler has made. The 4th degree is for those who wish to live a completely immersive toddler lifestyle that does not pay homage to or try to retrofit any existing belief system. It simply starts from a blank canvas using toddler principles to create whatever life practices, ritual, and traditions are needed.
Make sense?
Yes. Please. Okay, so we have different degrees that people go to in applying and integrating toddler principles into their lifestyle. And there's a consistent pattern as to how this is done. It's not really strict, but it's basically common gradations of how this occurs. So the first degree is basically noting the existence of the mojo phenomenon, that it can be empirically observed, and that it shows that humans have innate natures based on mathematical relationships, just the most basic fundamentals of the mojo phenomenon, pretty much. Let's get this to start. And the second degree is areas that are more tacit but pretty directly connected to the mojo phenomenon, things like pathways, social alchemy, mojo journalism. So this is a very good segue from there. Third degree is is even more tacit, and it's basically about connecting spirituality and how it's related to the mojo phenomenon. It must be said that this can be done with any spiritual belief system as long as it has a commitment to taking into account the updates that other discoveries and principles are making to our understanding of the meaning of existence. That kind of stuff, and it's not just going to be closed to those dogmatically. But beyond that, yeah. As long as it can do that, you can connect the spirituality to your mojo phenomenon. All right, but then the fourth degree is where you're living a completely immersive toddler lifestyle, where you are no longer paying homage to or retrofitting any existing belief system. You're starting from a blank canvas and using only toddler principles to build up the rituals and practices that you need.
Got it. Nice. Last one. Toddler principles. And
that was pretty long indeed. But it was one that like had like a progression to it, so it wasn't like so hard to do.
Yeah, but it was meaty.
Yeah.
And that's when I think, as you teach Podler going for the upcoming years, that'll be something you see constantly is this sort of
The degradations,
Yeah.
Totally.
Last in this area is basically kind of a capstone of the Podler principles, what it means.
Awesome. So the principles of Podler are always updating as we find out more about natural law and keep adjusting our life practice to stay in the highest state of harmoniously productive alignment with natural law as possible. We are open to dialoguing with any seeker from any background as long as they do not claim infallibility and respect the need for empirical evidence when discussing the merits of one belief system as compared to another. In this way, everyone's faith can be honored while not lessening the faith of others or overly lobbying for faith-based beliefs in others without sufficient supporting evidence. From this starting point, we can have seekers from every culture and walk of life learning and contributing together for the highest understanding of truth harnessed for the greatest good. Awesome. So update. This means all right. So the principles of Podler are always relentlessly updating to continue to be in alignment with our best understanding of natural law, and in turn, we use those principles to keep our life practices as harmoniously productive with natural law as possible. As a part of this, we're open to dialoguing with seekers from any background with the conditions that they don't claim infallibility, and there is an understanding that empirical evidence is going to be something that's important for discussing objectively the merits of the different kind of belief systems or models that the seeker might want to learn. Then, in this sense, everyone can have their faith and belief honored without lessening that of others or without being overly strident in lobbying for a particular faith-based claim that is not bringing in empirical evidence, which is distracting. So as long as those are in place, we can have dialogue with seekers from all walks of life and various belief systems contributing to the highest understanding of truth and the greatest good that can be done from that.
Got it. Nicely done. All right, so that wraps up the principles. Sounds like you've got a good understanding of them. Cool. Is there more, though, that you catch up on?
Yes.
That takes
I don't know exactly. Sorry?
Level 1 and level 2, right?
Yeah, I believe I've now completed level 1 and level 2. I've not posted all of them, but I have them. I was just looking at it earlier today. I'm like, no.
Good. So then L3 and 4, what's going on there?
I posted those on my channel, but I posted some. So what do we here? We're doing human design math, right? So Ben and Glenn just did like social alchemy or something like that on Thursday.
That's correct. So that's actually. So are you caught up then on L3 and 4 as well?
Are L3 and 4 the Naiji and the Nijai?
Correct.
It's I admit I don't know. I have to look through all of the videos. I still haven't done that yet to basically see which ones I missed.
Okay.
Probably not many. So there might be like a few pieces here and there in those that I need to do, but it should be very little.
Okay. So then we go on to L5 then, right?
Yeah. So we can just keep working on L5 for now. And then if we need to do one or two more makeup sessions or whatever, I'm gonna for sure. I'll look through all those videos soon, and I'll see exactly.
So did you do the peak pathway stuff, composition relationship stuff? I don't think you did. Or did you?
I might not have. Composition. I don't think I did. No.
All right.
So I don't know.
Here's the first question. What does the term peak pathway refer to? How is peaking done properly? What are some of the many ways the subject of peak pathways can be approached?
Oh yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, I think this is where I stopped. Because I do remember doing, like, we were talking about the heroic storyline and the unconscious source, unconscious channel. I don't think I did. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I think this is where I am. Yeah, I think I'm on. I think so. Peak pathway, all the way through social alchemy. Social alchemy is pretty long. Did they finish social alchemy?
So is this so you're page 62 then? Does that sound right?
Yeah, on the right place. I'm just trying to like conceptualize everything I have to do. So
okay. Basically,
we're in the right spot for sure right now. But
okay.
Sorry, what?
No, go ahead. You were saying?
Oh, I was just asking. Did Ben and Glenn did they make progress in social alchemy, or did they already finish it?
They almost finished it.
No, it must be quick because the beats are like, it's like long.
Well, they did 2 sessions you didn't make.
Oh,
not one.
Yeah, maybe even one.
So they did from peak pathway, we are there, down to change flow quartets. That was one push they did. And the second push they did was from change flow all the way down to personal storylines.
All right.
But you do see the page?
Yeah, so they're almost done with social alchemy. Yes, I do see the page. We'll go on with peak pathway. I was on 4. I was just trying to get a scope of what we got here. All right, cool.
No worries.
So each mojo has peak pathway, which is the particular power ranking sequence that their psyche has. To peak properly, a mojo needs to flex their powers on a regular basis in ways that are conducive to the peak pathway of their personal journey, which is intrinsically linked to the ranking sequence of their 8 powers. A person's peak pathway is a complex concept and phenomenon that can be looked at in several ways, with some of the key ones being conscious power hierarchy, energetic power hierarchy, will to shine, heroic storyline, social alchemy, and spiritual experience. Sequence properly, it's less plus regular basis, so it's conducive to the pathway of the personal journey into the ranking sequence. Okay, so peak pathway as a term refers to basically the particular ranking sequence that their powers have in their psyche. And peaking is done properly when you're flexing those powers on a regular basis in a way that's conducive to your pathway, which is linked to that ranking that you have for your particular peak pathway. And so some of the many ways that you can look at peak pathways are the conscious power hierarchy, energetic power hierarchy, will to shine, heroic storyline, social alchemy, and spiritual experience.
Next up is boom.
Okay. The Peak Pathway Conscious Power Hierarchy is the conscious ranking sequence of a person's powers of the psyche. Reaching from conscious source to conscious polar is necessary to gear an individual up for more advanced maneuvers involving their unconscious genius. This way of understanding and working with one's peak pathway is the most directly accessible and controllable. It is always the base of one's power use, but is especially advised in situations such as inexperience, fatigue, or confusion, in which a person may have difficulty immediately connecting with their unconscious genius. Using the conscious power sequence will help an individual get familiar with how their psyche operates, as well as wake up the connection to their unconscious genius. Oh, you posted it twice.
Again?
You posted the questions twice.
I did. By accident.
I was confused. Like, it looked like there were like tons of questions. Like, I feel like I already answered them. Like, oh wait, it's the same one. Okay. So, the Peak Pathway Conscious Power Hierarchy is going to be the ranking that your particular powers have based on their degree of consciousness in your psyche that you have. And it works basically by going from conscious source to the conscious polar power, and doing those kind of maneuvers is necessary to gear you up for meeting the unconscious genius, which is not within those. And the advantages of the conscious hierarchy of powers is that they're, because of how close to your consciousness they are, they're more accessible and controllable, and that's especially advisable to use in areas where there's like inexperience, fatigue, confusion, because it can basically kind of help you get your footing before you go out in the psychic wild, so to speak, and connect with your unconscious genius.
Indeed.
It relates to unconscious powers because you're getting a familiarity with the way that your conscious psyche operates, and so by doing that, when you know what that is, then you're going to wake up the connection to your unconscious genius, because you see that that is not those things.
Nice. All right. Next up is the energetic hierarchy. What is it? How does it work? What are the advantages of it? And how does it relate to the conscious powers?
Okay. The energetic power hierarchy, the Peak Pathway energetic power hierarchy, is stronger in terms of energetic influence of the psyche as compared to the conscious power hierarchy. This is because cycling through powers in this way involves using them in the energetic rank order of what gives most momentum, even if the momentum is unconscious. Since this more powerful cycle engages the unconscious powers at the onset, it is less predictable and not as easily controlled. However, each successful connection and interaction helps build a rapport between a person's conscious and unconscious that can be touched upon for easier access in the future. So the energetic hierarchy, the peak pathway energetic hierarchy, is going to be the ranking of the powers in terms of the energetic effect that they have on your psyche, not how conscious you are of them. And it works because when you go through the powers in this way, you're going through the powers in terms of the ones that, in order from the top, the ones that give you the most momentum, even if that momentum comes from the unconscious. That would go before even conscious powers that give less momentum. And the way this, some of the things that go along with this is that because you have stuff coming from the unconscious, it's not as predictable or controllable as the conscious power, which we already talked about in the last section, the advantages of that. But because you're touching your unconscious powers to do this, and you're building a connection between your conscious and unconscious powers, powerful connection and rapport that can be drawn upon for future use.
So, next up is the complete hierarchy. That's your mathematical. There you go. What is the complete conscious power hierarchy sequence? What is the complete energetic power hierarchy sequence?
All right, so basically just listing them. Okay, I can try to do this. So the complete conscious power hierarchy sequence is source, tandem, offside, polar, unconscious, source, unconscious tandem, unconscious offside, unconscious polar. And the complete energetic power hierarchy sequence is going to be source, tandem, offside, unconscious offside, polar, unconscious polar.
All right, here we go. One more complex. What is the composition relationship? What are the four composition relationships, and what do they combine to create?
All right, so the composition relationship refers to when two powers that are both part of one quadrant of the psyche are combined to form the complete priority functionality that the quadrant is dedicated to. So nice speculation and via recollection combined to complete the worldview map priority. The abstraction and the realism combined to complete the stimulus register priority. G code of conduct and Z strategy combined to complete the dynamics mover priority, and Xi calibration and Xi moral compass combined to complete the compass bearings priorities.
All right. Crush. Up. What is over momentum?
Oh wait, I actually read that from the
book. Oh, I thought you don't. Oh, sorry, because mathematical. No, go ahead then.
Yeah, it is mathematical, but I can just I probably can just done it easily.
Oh, no,
anyway,
no.
I could have just, but I'll go ahead and do it. The composition relationship is when you have two powers that are part of one priority or one kind of quadrant. Actually, yeah, both within one quadrant coming together to make up the entire functionality of a particular priority. And so the examples of that are Nigh speculation and by recollection, making the worldview. G code of conduct and Z strategy combining to make the dynamics mover. Xi calibration and Xi moral compass combined to make the tower, the equilibrium, and the V realism and the abstraction combining to make the stimulus register. Okay.
Good. All right, next question is already there in the chat bar.
Gotcha.
Momentum. What happens in a situation of momentum? What is their modulation? What happens in those situations? And what does the term suppression refer to in this context?
Okay, so overmomentum is when a mojo builds up too much momentum energy without continuing to process it with modulation. This creates a saturation of momentum that is disorienting, disempowering, and if it goes on too long, will require detoxing to restore proper pathway flow. Overmodulation is when a mojo applies too much modulation to their mental powers, causing them to shut down or be significantly choked off. This creates a depletion of momentum and an excess of modulation that is disorienting, disempowering, goes on too long, will require detoxing to restore pathway flow. Suppression can refer specifically to when a person has overmodulated themselves to the point that they have become habitually inhibited and sublimated in their momentum power use. It can also refer more generally to any influence in a person's life that causes them to become habitually inhibited and sublimated in living out their entire pathway. I guess one question I would have is there like anything that goes along with this of like habitual states of momentum?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a very inspirational situation, person, or environment, then yeah, you would be perpetually getting that momentum boost.
Interesting. And you can't like process it.
One would hope that their temple and the temple of their other would be a continuous momentum boost. All goes well. Well, I mean, obviously do modulation as well, but it would be a constant access to momentum. Okay, so overmomentum is basically when you build up a bunch of momentum energy and it's too much to have been processed, I guess, by a specific time or sufficiently with the modulation powers. And in such a situation, there can be a feeling of disorientation, disempowerment, and if it goes particularly bad, like a need to like kind of detox and restore proper P pathway flow. Overmodulation is similar, but it's basically when there's been so much modulation use that the momentum becomes sort of choked off and shut down. And so this is going to be kind of a depletion of energy and momentum, which is disorienting, disempowering, and can also need detox if it happens sufficiently insufficiently extreme amount. And so suppression refers to when persons overmodulated themselves, really where they become habitually inhibited and sublimated in their peak pathway drives. And yeah, that it. You want to say it?
Yeah, I remember there being one more point, but like I don't remember what it was. I think it was like.
Yeah, I think it talks about the specific instance and the general instance, but I think you kind of capture that.
Oh yeah, because I said peak pathways, right? Okay.
All right. Next up, that ends that section, and so now we go down to the section on social alchemy.
Cool.
All right, what is social alchemy? How does it relate to peak pathways? How does this relate to sociology? And how does one begin to understand social alchemy?
Okay. The interaction between the peak pathway of two or more people is called social alchemy. In this context, there are peak pathways for any and all groups of people, as well as for each individual person. Throughout human history, people have been seeking for a way to unify all humans that also respects each individual. But the answer of how to do this already exists in nature. People just need to relearn how to see the phenomenon of productive harmony within humans that has always been there. Voter reading is the best place to start the process of understanding the fundamental positive energetic interconnections that humans are born sharing with each other. Let's see.
He's processing the question.
All right. So social alchemy, it refers to the interaction between the pathway of two or more people, and it relates to pathways because in this context there are pathways for any and all groups and for any kind of individual. And that's why sociology, because there's always been this sociological quest that humans have had, at least for as long as humans have been around to a certain point, that of respecting the individual while trying to unify them. And the answer to this already exists in nature, and that is social alchemy, and one begins to understand it by just relearning the phenomenon of the social alchemy, productive harmony between humans, which you can do first of all through mojo reading. We helps you directly see all the kind of positive connections that humans can have with one another by understanding the signals that they give off. The drivers underneath them.
Good. All right, nice. Next up, pretty straightforward, is how many basic social alchemy groupings are there? What is the basic premise for making progress in one's social alchemy relationships?
Okay. There are 20 basic social alchemy groupings, with each designed to teach one about themselves by showing them how they energetically and mathematically relate to different groups of their fellow humans. Social alchemy starts with the groupings that are most familiar and conducive to the person's nature, and it expands out from there to ones that are more distant and challenging. Hmm. Okay, so there are 20 basic social alchemy groupings, and the basic premise of making progress in one social alchemy relationships is that you can start with the ones that are more familiar and conducive, and then build up from there the ones that are going to be more distant.
Indeed. All right. Next up, these are pre-mathematical, so you might be able to crush through these. If you want to read them out, you can, or you can go right off the cuff, your call. All right. What is augmentation? How does augmentation relate to social alchemy?
Let me make sure I understand this. So augmentation is anything that helps a person's powers gain strength in order to do what they do better. Since the individuals who augment a person give out the same or similar power manifestations and signals and similar strength, augmentation gives a person mental fuel to do what they're already doing natively in greater quantity and quality. All right. Cool. So yeah, augmentation is basically anything that gives a person's powers strength to do what they already do, but better. And it relates to alchemy since basically the people who are going to augment you are the ones that use powers that are the same or similar in ranking and structure and all that. And so it's going to give you more fuel to do what you're already doing natively. So you can do it, more of it, and it'll be a better quality.
Nice. That's off the cuff, right? So,
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah.
Credit received, sir. All right. What is design recognition? What are 3 benefits of this social alchemy grouping?
All right, anyway, design recognition is the first social alchemy grouping. It is extremely important to know how one's mojo works, as it will explain why and how they do everything they do. Discovering others that share the same mojo design brings experiences of profound connection and self-awareness. Design recognition helps identify anyone who shares the same mojo design, no matter the person's age, race, gender, sexual orientation, or any other factor that might obscure this recognition. This is crucial. Knowing oneself, as anyone who has trouble recognizing others that share the mojo design will have corresponding trouble in seeing themselves clearly or the oneness of humanity as a whole. Okay, so design recognition is the first social alchemy grouping, and it's most familiar, and it's recognizing your own why, basically, you and the people like you in this respect. And so 3 benefits of this are: one is that it helps you to know the way that your mojo works, how it motivates you to do, and empowers you to do things that you do. Because you can see it throughout the design recognition in all the different ways. It also, seeing people with the same mojo gives a lot of a profound connection to those people and a feeling of greater self-awareness. They mirror you in a certain respect. You can see aspects of yourself from a different perspective. And then also design recognition basically helps identify people who share your mojo, regardless of all the other like variations on that. So sex, sexual orientation, race, age, all those kinds of things, all the other variants. So yeah, I guess those are three.
Nice.
And then I guess I remember there was one more thing that it said, which was that basically knowing it is important because if you don't recognize your own design recognition group, it's going to mess with your ability to see the kind of nuance of humanity.
Nice. All right, moving from there.
But I think I was kind of talking about all the benefits there anyway.
Say again?
I think that last beat was just kind of talking about the significance of those benefits. So like the three benefits that you had, and the last beat's like, well, those are important because
Exactly.
one reason they are, besides self-evidently.
All right, if you're up for it, let's keep on going forward to inspirationals. What are ideal inspirationals? What are inspirational storylines? How are they created? How does this relate to one's unconscious genius?
Ideal inspirationals are inspirationals where all four conscious powers, one partner, are being positively charged up by the other partner's conscious powers and at the same channel ranking for all four channels of the psyche. Inspirational storylines are complete sets of all 8 powers of the psyche working together in productive harmony, also called heroic storylines. This comes from pairing 2 different motives together that are ideal inspirationals to each other, which forms one holistic heroic storyline. Each partner contains a different half of their story in their conscious awareness and sense of self, while the other half of the story contains their unconscious as their unconscious genius. I know the song Charlene's singing.
Sorry?
As I know, I was just commenting that I know the song Charlene's singing.
Probably it's not too distraction.
No, it's not. I just was like listening. I was just like, I heard the lyrics.
It's nice energy. Enjoy it.
It's a Rihanna song. So ideal inspirationals are inspirationals where you have all 4 conscious powers of one partner positively charging up the 4 conscious powers of the other partner and vice versa on all the appropriate symmetrical channels. And the inspirational storylines are where you have the total set of the 8 powers working together in productive harmony in a particular way. And they're created by having ideal inspirationals coming together to mesh their halves of the storyline together, which makes their conscious halves anyway, which makes the total inspirational storyline. But I guess we all each have the inspirational storyline in our head because we have our unconscious genius as well. In our psyche, I should say. I don't know. There's kind of difference. And then this relates to one's unconscious genius because we each have half of the inspirational storyline in our conscious half, and then the inspirational partner brings the other, from their perspective, the conscious, but that's what is our unconscious genius, and that's why there's such a strong connection that creates the inspirational storyline.
All right, so now you're basically going to break down the storylines. What are the 8 different storylines, and what is the channel ranking of that storyline?
So when you say what is, it's just the 2 mojos?
The 2 mojos and then the channel ranking.
Yeah, okay, so the Nages are the Naiji and the Nijai, and the channel ranking is interpretive, values-based, logic-based, literal. The Nazes are the Naizi and the Nizai, and the channel ranking is interpretive, logic-based, values-based, literal. The Shinez storyline is the Jinai and the Shiny, and the channel ranking is values-based, interpretive, literal, logic-based. The Jibez storyline is the Jivai and the Jiv, and its channel ranking is values-based, literal, interpretive, logic-based. The Zinez storyline is the Zinai and the Zaini, and their channel ranking is logic-based, interpretive, literal, values-based. The Zinez storyline is the Z5 and the Zi-V, and their channel ranking is logic-based, literal, interpretive, and values-based. The Vijez storyline is the Vaiji and the Vijai. Their channel ranking is literal, values-based, logic-based, interpretive. And finally, the Vizez storyline is the Vaisi and the Zai, and their channel ranking is literal, logic-based, values-based, and interpretive.
Okay. All right, more math stuff. What are same source partners? What are the 8 different same source partner groups, and what mode designs are in each one?
Okay. So same source partners for remote designs are the same source power and thus the same polar power, but with different tandem and offset powers. So I should probably just do those. So yeah, there's no reason to read these. So the same yeah. So source power partner. I'll start from the beginning. Same source power partners are where you have 2 motors that share the same source power and thus the same polar power, but they have different tandem and offside powers. So the different groupings are the Ni alpha, and so that's going to be the Ni G and the Ni Z, and they have Ni source v polar. Then you have the Ni alpha, that's going to be the Ni Zhai and Ni Zai, and they have Ni source bipolar. Then you have the Zhai alpha, that's going to be the Shiny and the Zhai V. They have Zhai source Z polar. The G alpha is going to be the G Ni and the G Vi, and they have G source Xi polar. The Xi alpha is going to be the Xi Ni and the Xi V. They have Xi source and G polar. The Z alpha are the Z Ni and the Z Vi, and they have Z source and Xi polar. The Bi alpha are the Vi G and the Vi Z, and they have Vi source and Ni polar. And then finally the V alpha are the V Xi and V Xi, and they have V source Ni polar.
Nice. All right, what are compound partners, also known as inverse mojo partners? What are the 8 different compound partners, and what mojo designs are in each one?
So combat partners for Demotage designs that have the same momentum powers and the same modulation powers, but in different rankings, regarding to minor versus major, and in those sections. Okay, so you're going to have the Durons. So that's going to be the Nai-Ji and the Jinai. Does any more really need to be said? Because I feel like their names kind of already imply
Yeah. No, yeah.
what powers that they just get redundant.
You said
The Adroms are the Nijai and Jaini. The Dur Serbs are the Nai-Zi and the Zinai. The Ad Serbs are the Ni-Zai and the Zaini. The Dur Sens are the Shi-Vai and the Vai-Ji. The Ad Sens are the Vijai and the Jai-Vi. The Dur Prax are the Vai-Si and the Si-Vai. And the Ad Prax are the Vi-Zai and the Zai-Vi. And they have the powers they sound like they have.
All right, nice. Next up is the same source quartets, or source song. What is the source song quartet? What are the 4 different source song quartet groups, and which mojos are in each one?
The source song quartet is where you have the mojos with the same channel for major momentum and the same channel for major modulation, accordingly. That would always be the case, by just deduction. And so the 4 different same source quartet groups are the Nez Alpha, and so they are the Nai-Ji, Nai-Zi, Nizai, and Nijai, and they have the interpretive channel as major momentum, and thus the literal channel's modulation. So then there's the Shez Alpha, which is the Shinai, Jivai, Jaini, and Javi. They have the values-based channel as major momentum, and thus the logic-based channel as major modulation. The Zez Alpha is the Zinai, Zaini, Z-Vi, and Zai-Vi, and they have the logic-based channel as major momentum, and thus the values-based channel as major modulation. And then finally, the Bez Alpha, and so they have the literal channel. Mojos first, I guess. The Zai, Vijai, Vai-Si, and Vai-Shi, and they have the literal channel as major momentum and the interpretive channel as major modulation.
What is the compound quartets, also known as the storyline quartets?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like, when we used to call it story, I like storyline.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was playing on some ones, but I agree. You're right. What are the storyline quartets? What are the 4 different ones, and which mojos are in each of those groups?
Then I can see where compound comes from, because it's like the same 2 channels, and it's like putting the 2 compound partners together, but it's not sounds the same.
No, you're right. You're right.
Where storyline can like 24 distinct. But I'm sure. Just aesthetic thing. That makes concerning ways. Okay, so anyway, the compound quartet or the storyline quartet is basically where you have 4 mojo designs that share having 2 channels as their momentum channels in whatever order that happens to be. But they have, in some respect, those 2 channels as their momentum channels. And then accordingly the ones of modulation, but again, it's just implied. So you have the romantics. These is the Nai-Shi, Jinai, Nishai, Shiny, and they have the interpretive and values-based channels as momentum. the cerebrals are the Zni, Ni-Z, Ni-Zi, and Zi-Ni, and they have the logic-based interpretive channels as momentum. Then we have the centralists, which are the Baiji, Jivai, Vijai, Jai-V, and they have the literal and values-based channels of momentum. And then the practicals, which is the Zi, Zibai, Xi-V, Vzi, and they have the literal and logic-based channels as momentum.
All right, moving on. What are the special club quartets? What are the 4 different groups, and who's in each one?
Okay. Special club quartet is a social alchemy grouping where each group is comprised of 4 mojo designs that all share having the same innate preference when it comes to mode of perception, whether they have an objective or subjective energy field. Okay. So, also I'm reading again because I did that. So, but anyways,
you talk real fast sometimes. That's really cool. You're doing credit right now.
Yes, now I am. I wasn't then.
I figured. Just make sure I'm tracking. Gotcha. Go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes I mumble. Anyway, I was just the first time I just read it from the book, so now I was just saying that.
I figured I just want to confirm that. Cool.
The special club is basically where you have 4 mojos that share a certain mode of perception as momentum, and then also having going along with that an objective or a subjective energy field. So the subjective interpretives is going to be the Ni-Ji, Ni-Z, Jai-Ni, and Zai-Ni, and they share the interpretive perception and the subjective energy field, as it sounds like. The objective interpretives are the Ni-Zai, Ni-Shai, Ji-Nai, and Z-Nai, and they share interpretive and having the objective energy field. The subjective literals are the Vi-Shi, Vi-Z, Zai-V, and Jai-V, and they share the literal perception field and the subjective energy field. And finally, the objective literals, which are the G-Vi, Z-Vi, V-Zi, and V-Shai, and they share the literal perception and then the objective energy field.
All right. Change flow has gone to a little bit more detail. So you'll see the way it's flown out there. So we'll start off with this. What are the change flow quartets? How does this relate to the interpretive and literal powers? How does it relate to
Induction flow? Let's go and read it. Change flow quartet is social alchemy grouping where each group is comprised of 4 mojo designs that all share having a similar innate degree of comfortability with change and risk, as opposed to comfortability with repetition and exactness. The higher ranked emoji's interpretive power is, the more comfortable they are naturally with change and risk. Whereas the higher ranked emoji's literal power is, the more comfortable they are naturally with repetition and exactness. All 4 of the change flow waves are needed for full production flow that includes everything from new concepts all the way to established implementation. Okay, so the first wave of the change flow is comprised of the Ni-Shi, Ni-Z, Ni-Shai, Ni-Zai, which are the 4 mojos that innately concern themselves with transforming ideas from their initial purely abstract and conceptual forms into a blueprint or experiment for change. They discover and self-generate new ideas, and then live them out to translate them in order to show what one could potentially do with the idea, so it can be picked up on by others. Second wave of the change.
Okay, so you've gone into both. That's fine. Because there's actually two.
Oh, okay. You're gonna split that up.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Let's just go ahead and do one at a time. Okay. I see. Yeah, you're right. This does capture those questions. Of course. Okay, so the Change Flow Quartet is the alchemy grouping where the four motor designs share a similar degree of comfort with change and risk and exactness and repetition, respectively. The higher Emojo's interpretive powers rank are going to be more comfortable with change and risk, naturally. And then the higher literal power is more comfortable with repetition and exactness, naturally. This relates to production flow because you need all waves of the change flow to go through, I guess, a cycle of production flow all the way from new concepts to established implementation.
Nice. All right, so now that clears up the first push that Ben and Glenn did. So now you're catching up the second push they did, which is following up on change flow. So what is the first wave quartet? Which Mojo designs are in this quartet? And what function does it serve in the overall process of change flow?
Oh, okay, so we're really splitting this one. Change flow is important.
The paragraph?
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. I guess the reason I didn't is because I already started reading it. But, I'll read it. The first wave of the change flow is comprised of the Naishi, Naizi, Nishai, and Nuzai, which are the four mojas that innately concern themselves with transforming ideas from their initial purely abstract and conceptual forms into a blueprint or experiment for change. They discover and self-generate new ideas and then live them out and translate them in order to show what one could potentially do with the idea, so it can be picked up on by others. Okay, so the first wave of the change flow are the mojas that most concern themselves with taking ideas from their just most abstract form into a blueprint or experiment for change. It's basically the most comfortable with risk and change of all of them, and that's going to be the Naishi, Naizi, Ni, Zhai, and Nizai, the highest ranked interpretive power. And the function that it serves is that these mojas naturally go about discovering and self-generating new ideas, and then they demonstrate in some form the way that they could be used so that others can pick up those ideas for further development down the production flow.
All right, same thing now with the second wave. What is second wave? What mojos are in it, and what function does it provide to change?
The second wave of the change flow is as far as the Xi, Shiny, and Xi, which are the 4 Mojos that innately concern themselves with transforming the initial ideas into a prototype. They build onto a play with blueprint or experiment an idea in order to see if the idea is feasible for further usage. If it is, they become engaged in the process of giving the idea physical form or ameliorating an existing form into something better. Okay, so the second wave of the quartet are the Mojos that have Turbo Power second and Little Power third. So they're most concerned with, so it's like second highest interpreter basically, and they're most concerned with taking the ideas and giving them a form and like a prototype. So this is going to be the Xi, Shiny, and Ziny, and they they build onto and play with existing the kind of blueprints or the experiments that come from the first wave and see if you could get further use out of them. And so then what they do with that is the case is that they can give the ideas more physical form or ameliorate their existing form for something better than it is.
Got it. Good. All right, what is a third wave quartet? Which Mojos are in it, and what function does the third wave provide for change flow?
Okay. The third wave of change flow is comprised of Shivi, Sivi, Shivi, and Sivi, which are the 4 Mojos that innately concern themselves with transforming physical prototypes into a mass production that works in many practical situations and on a more widespread scale. They become interested in the prototype if they see that it has already been proven to work, at least to some small degree, so that they can test drive and promote it. Okay. The third wave quartet is the quartet that takes most concerned with taking physical prototypes and transforming them into kind of a mass production scheme that can be working in a much wider spread of situations and practical uses. And the Mojos that make up this are the Shivi, Zivi, Shivi, and Sivi. So what they do, the way that it works, is that the function is that they become interested in prototype if and basically see that if it's been proven in some small degree, and then if that is the case, then they can take it out and test drive it and promote it accordingly, which leads to it getting that mass production scale.
Good. Last one on change flow. What is the fourth wave? Which mojos are in it, and what function does it serve?
Okay. The fourth wave of change flow is comprised of the VIG, VIZ, VJI, and Zai, which are the four mojos that innately concern themselves with styling and maintaining methods for applying ideas that have been tested and are readily available. They are interested in products that have been proven to be stable and well received, so that they can trust in it and focus on convincing others of proven merits and establish proper standards. I guess I go through this just thinking about it. Like I think about the change flow and stuff. Like, it makes me wonder. Like, there's certain mojos, that we have less of, and so I wonder if that's because certain phases of this change flow just aren't as likely to be broadcasted.
I think so, probably.
Putting it so, like, we don't have. I mean, one of the ones we I think always probably had at least as like third wave. Those four mojos have never really been huge, especially like CI.
Yeah. Although the rarest one we have so far is, I think, the VIZ female.
Yeah, VIZ females. But like as far as like overall mojo,
Right.
I like the ZVI. I don't know for sure. I just.
The ZVI's picked up through soccer.
That's true.
Influx there, but you're right. General.
Yeah. The sports might not relate as much to the change flow thing. Oh, it might probably relate a little bit. Because I guess it does, because when sports are new, you tend to see more than as mojos. Yeah, like actually tennis is a great example. So like a lot of the older tennis champions were an IG, and now that's quite rare. Yeah. Now the ad cracks have kind of taken over.
Ad crack revolution. Good for them.
Basketball still has lots of Durams. I wonder if that will remain that way. It could just be the Durams have particular abilities that are good for that forever. But I don't know.
Yeah, sure, exactly what it is. If it's
so it's not change flow is not like the only change flow, like it matters, but it's not the only factor in why it's sports. But like so for like the ZVI, like I wonder whether like they would show up in a lot of like mass production oriented professions. I feel like they would. Or like I would speculate that, but we obviously don't have like tons of media on that because those professions are very like just sort of standardized.
Yeah.
From the mill stuff.
I wonder if anything we ever find them on where they like get on YouTube and geek out on. So far we haven't found it yet, but that'd be kind of cool if we did.
It really would. Next, we have like a fourth wave. Fourth wave's pretty common. We have a lot of I alpha, we have a lot of V alpha.
Actually, not the fourth wave. You're right. The fourth wave seems to show up besides the VIZ female, but other than that,
that's true.
They show up more than the third wave. You're right. That's interesting.
Yeah, because females aren't supposed to be VIZ.
I wonder why it is. It's unusual.
But like, because I guess the V alpha. It's I guess it's just because they're in like such like a I don't know, edge like prominent position. Fourth waves are like they're like styling things that are already out there. So obviously the stylishness of the V alpha attracts a lot of attention, and then the Vi alpha, they're like these like top owners of stuff, and like or not even if not owners, like maintainers, like doctors and lawyers and things like that, where they're in the public eye, and they have like a I don't know edge position in some way. No, that's a very way of describing it, but
it's interesting because I really don't know what the answer to that is. So I'm curious on your speculations.
And like just things like GVI and JIV do often. It's another curious thing because again we have them in some like strange like things like MMA and music and stuff like that, modeling, but those aren't like very common professions.
Right.
So what do they do like normally?
Besides that, right?
Even ZIV really. We mostly have ZIV from sports. But they're obviously all athletes. Maybe like manual work.
I have seen, it's not famous enough to capture, but I have seen some Xi-V showing up on those commercials for the technical colleges.
Interesting.
Maybe like the automotive colleges.
Like
I've seen
engineering sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I could see that. That would be very interesting. That stuff does get very physical. Like they're like doing like drawings and stuff in very detail. Like I can imagine.
I'm not sure how much that was, like crafting versus like.
Oh right, yeah, I know. I got a big fan experience, not the commercials, but I guess like I was trying to say I can see what you're saying about why they would.
Yeah, myself, I'm sure not quite sure what to make of it.
Yeah,
that's joy. The joy is the mysteries, right?
Yeah.
That's the rush.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting more third wave. Sure. So anyway, I think I already read it, right? So. Oh wait, I did third wave. No, we're on fourth wave. Right. Fourth wave questions are out. Okay, so I didn't even read fourth wave yet. Okay, so fourth wave chain flow is comprised of VIG, VIZ, VXi, and VXi, which are the four modules that innately concern themselves with styling and maintaining methods for applying ideas that have been tested and are readily available. They are interested in products that have been proven to be stable and well received, so that they can trust in it and focus on convincing others of its proven merits and establishing proper standards. Okay. Maintaining methods Another thing I've noticed, like in the waves, is the way you describe it. I can see like both halves of the source power, and right. So like there's like the proven merits feels more like the V, and the establishing proper standards seems more like the Vi.
Exactly.
And there's like the test driving and the promoting. Test driving, I imagine, would be more like the Vez towers, and the promoting probably the pilots. On average, I mean, I guess we look at both, but because it's one storyline. Like giving idea physical form, like the Nez pilots and the ameliorating
that was
form, the towers.
I'm glad it came through.
And like living out the ideas seems more like Ni Alpha translating them. It's like the Ni Alpha, like the bridge building and the connections that they make.
Exactly, because that wave you need both. The adaptive and the directive side of it.
Helps me remember it. All right. Okay. So the fourth wave quartet is the quartet that has the Vez power first and the Nez last. So they're most comfortable with the stability, the exactness, and the repetition, and they're concerned with styling and maintaining stuff that's already widely available and readily accessible. It's like the same thing. The modules are the VIG, the Xi, VXi, and VIC. Why I did that order. And the way that the function of it is that they're interested basically in proven products in some respects. So they're well received and stable, and so then they can trust in the product and focus on convincing others of the proven merits that it has and establishing standards for it. Yes.
Got it. Okay. All right. Next, moving on to the priorities, priority quartets. So,
another big one.
What are the priority quartets? What are the four different groups, and which mojos are each one?
All right, I should read it. The Priority Quartet is a social alchemy grouping where each group is comprised of 4 mojos that all share heaven source power that addresses the same priority in the psyche. Oh, it's hunter-gatherer power. So the 4 different Priority Quartet groups are Hunter, but that's going to be the Nai-Ji, Kanzi, Ai-Shi, Faisi, and they all have the world team up first. Gatherers, the Nijai, Nizai, Vijai, Vizai, they all have the stimulus first, stimulus register. Pilots, Jivai, Zivai, Zinai, Jiva, or Jinai, last one, divide first. And they have the dynamic group first called, and the towers, Shiny, Ziny, Jaivi, and Zyvi. They have the equilibrium compass bearings first.
All right, we got 10 minutes left here. I think we can get maybe 1 or 2 more in. So we can do. Talk about the discernment quartets. What are they? What are the 4 different groups, and which mojos are in each one?
Quartets. All right. I guess it's pretty simple. So I'll just go ahead and do it. Discernment quartets are the alchemy grouping.
So you're going for credit?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead for credit. Sorry. Talking fast. So the discernment quartet are the quartets where the mojos in the quartet share having the same discernment power as their momentum conscious discernment power, conscious momentum discernment power. And so there's the G mojos, and that's the G Vi, G Nai, Nai G, and Vi G. And they'll have G as their conscious momentum discernment. Z mojos, so Vi Z, Nai Z, Z Nai, Z Vi, they'll have Z as their conscious momentum discernment. The Zai mojos, Zini, Zyvi, Nizai, Vizai, they all have Zai as their conscious momentum discernment. And the Jai mojos, Nijai, Shiny, Jaivi, Vijai, all have Jai as their conscious momentum discernment.
Got it. All right. So the same thing now for the perception quartets. What are they? What are the 4 different groups, and who is in each one?
All right, so the perception quartets refer to mojos within the quartet that share a particular perception as their conscious momentum perception. So Nai mojos, Nai Ji, Nai Si, Ji Nai, Si Nai, share Nai as their conscious momentum perception. The Ni mojos, Yishai, Yizai, Jini, and Zini share Ni as their conscious momentum perception. The Phi mojos, Phi G, Phi C, Shi Vi, Si Vi, share Phi as their conscious momentum perception. And V mojos, Vijai, Vizai, Zai V, Shai V, share their V as their conscious momentum perception.
Oh. Next up is like 5 minutes here. I think we can do it. Let's try shape and consciousness. What are the quartets, and who is each one?
All right. So Shades of Consciousness Quartet is the quartet where the four modes in the quartet have the same four conscious powers. Hence, Shades of Consciousness. So there's the Naiji Zai Quartet, which is the Naiji Shinai Zai Zai. The Nai Z Zai V Quartet, which is the Nai Z Nai D Zai Zai V. The Ni Zai Z Vi Quartet, which is the Ni Zai Shiny Zivi and Vici, and then the Ni Zai Ji Vi Quartet, which is the Zai Zai Ni Bai Ji Ji Vi.
Bam. Okay, so we're at like 5 minutes to go. Do you want to call it here for today? It's probably a nice stopping point.
I'm fine with that.
All right. Cool. We made some really nice progress there. So then we can talk tomorrow. I'll go sign off, world. Say world.